Hello, my people. It's so good to be here again. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's an awesome time right here. And of course, I hope you're having a nice and a nice time. Yes, this is Saffron Media, where we give you trending, exciting, reliable, and authentic happenings. And right here, we have something for you that says that fears, anxiety grip Edo residents. Of course, we've been hearing of the unrest that has been happening in Edo State for some time now, since after the NSAS protest, and it's not been a quiet time in Edo State. Anyway, more details I will bring to you shortly. But you know how we do it right here. If you have not subscribed, please ensure you hit the subscribe button and also give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to turn on your notification bell so you get notified anytime we drop a new video. Okay guys, let us dive right into the main details of this report. Yes, the effect of NSAS protests that went violent and resulted in two jailbreaks in Edo State have continued to reverberate in several parts of the state as the residents are now gripped with fear and anxiety following an upsurge in crime rates in the state capital. On the highway, particularly along the Benin Auchi-Okene Road, criminal elements have completely taken over. The police have abandoned patrols on the road. There have been several reports on what led to jailbreak. There was an allegation of compromise by some prison officials who allegedly connived with the prisoners to escape, an allegation which prison officials have denied. It was argued that the prison guards were aware of the protest on the streets and should have confined the prisoners to their separate cells, but the guards still allowed them to come out to open the space in the prisons. It was believed that if the prisoners were confined to their cells, the jailbreak would have been more difficult, as there was a widespread allegation that the inmates were in constant communication with the boys outside, which validates the argument that the inmates have access to their mobile phones while in prison custody. The hoodlums who hid under the NSAS protest first attacked the Benin prison situated along Sapler Road, which was built in 1906, and easily overran the facility and released the inmates. The situation in Benin prison sent a signal to Oko prison, which management was said to have called for reinforcement from sister security agencies, but did not come. According to the Deputy Controller of the Correction Center (DCC) in charge of Oko Correctional Center, West Amayo, while briefing Governor Godwin Obaseki, who was on a fact-finding mission and assessment of the facilities, the hoodlums first came around 9 a.m. were repelled by prison guard. He said the armed thugs returned at about 11:30 a.m. and were again repelled before they came into full force at about 1:30 p.m. where they succeeded in overpowering the armed prison officials who ran out of ammunition. He said the first set of hoodlums came in at about 9 a.m. They tried to gain access, but we repelled them. They went to regroup and came back about 11:30 a.m. again. They were repelled by our men. At that point, we had locked the inmates in their respective cells, but they started shaking all the bars and breaking the windows. At about 1:30 p.m., when they came again for the third time, they were more in numbers with assorted rifles, and they started firing from afar, from the airport road, although my men were replying. But of course, because of the number of firearms they had, they overpowered us. That was how they took over the place. We had 14 armed prison officers, but the ammunition we had got exhausted. We called for reinforcement, but none came. The invaders also burnt the record office of the prison, which would make it difficult to trace the records of many of the prisoners. Several prison officers were said to have sustained gunshot wounds, but it was not clear if there were casualties among the hoodlums and the missing prisoners. An injured officer at the Oko prison, who was interviewed in one of the private hospitals in Benin City, said, "We were instructed not to fire at the armed protesters who broke into the cell to free the inmates, and that they were overwhelmed by the upsurge crowd of the hoodlums who took over the prison environment." I just thank God that I am still alive to tell the story. We called for backup from the military and other sister security agencies when information got to us that the hoodlums were marching to Oko prison, but no response of any kind. We were ordered from above not to shoot into the armed hoodlums who fired at us. So after exhausting our bullets, we had to run for our safety. That was how I ran for my dear life, the official said, asking not to be named for fear of victimization. Many of the hoodlums were believed to have come from the upper Sapombar area of Benin City. They destroyed and burned down the three police stations in that axis: Ugbekun Street, Savio and Idobo. They also destroyed the office of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency (NDLEA), which is situated along that area. As at today, there is no presence of security operatives in that part of the town, and that has created a free space for criminal elements to thrive, while their activities have also spread to other parts of the city. On Tuesday, a young man was robbed near Three House Junction, and in the process, he sustained injuries and was hospitalized. 2 days after, three of his friends who were on their way to visit him were attacked by suspected armed robbers. One of them was robbed of his cash, ATM card, and his phone. They barely escaped without injuries. A resident in St. Saviour area of the same axis, who simply gave his name as John, narrated to us that we are being robbed at will and oppressed by many of those criminals who ran away from prison and are now terrorizing us. Two of my friends have been victims. They were going home when some boys rounded them up, collected their phones and money they had in their handbags. That was around 7 p.m. in their street. There was another friend of my friends who said she and two of her friends were robbed around Ifowa Street by three boys who were wearing only shorts. They were accosted by the boys with guns who collected their money and phones. We now live in fear. Once it is 6 p.m., everybody runs into their houses. Just yesterday, a journalist said he was attacked by a nine-man gang around Aduwawa area on his way back from work. The police weekend, however, read the riot act to the criminals as it paraded 126 suspected criminals, including 10 prisoners who escaped from the two prisons who broke into the government and private warehouses, carting away food and other items they claimed were palliatives for COVID-19. Addressing the newsmen, the Commissioner for Police, Johnson Babatunde Kokumo, said it was very clear that criminal elements actually hijacked the NSAS peaceful protest. We have a number of police stations razed down. In some instances, arms and ammunition were carted away. Public warehouses were vandalized and looted. Individuals were violently attacked for no just cause, and unprovoked attacks on innocent citizens. So guys, that is the fear to which Edo citizens are actually living by today. A lot of fear and anxieties in the residents of Edo State. Anyway, drop your comments and tell us what you think about this that is happening in Edo State, and don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Do have a pleasant time. Bye for now.